Well, Cleveland Police Officer Tim Lehmann, he will not face criminal charges. This was the decision by the grand jury not to indict Officer Lehmann in the killing of 12-year-old Tamir Rice. This decision, Nick, coming 400 days after Tamir Rice's murder. His family and activists alike, they're saying, look, this officer should have been charged months ago with his murder. 400 days later, the grand jury is saying we're not going to indict him. What do you make of this?
Well, Margaret, as sad and shocking as this whole situation is, unfortunately, I can't say that I'm all too surprised. I mean, we've seen so many cases just like this, and there was additional footage that came out, in addition to the original footage of the officer shooting him just a few seconds after pulling up on Tamir Rice. And apparently they found that, just to be, after analyzing all these videos, it's just a freak accident. They said it was just, it was something that just happens. I personally really disagree, and we'll get into that, but that's what they feel it is. Right.
This has incited a lot of people, not only in the Cleveland area, but around the globe, and you're absolutely right. You and I covered that surveillance tape here on the left. They'd actually enhanced the surveillance tape. They re-released it, and the decision came down. They're saying, look, this enhanced tape, it means that Tamir Rice was actually, reaching for his toy gun, and I want to point out that Tim Lehmann, 2-second lag time from pulling up to shooting this 12-year-old boy and killing him. And this officer has had a history of issues before. In an open letter that was released by a former supervisor regarding Lehmann, they said, look, he doesn't, I'm paraphrasing, he doesn't follow directions well. He doesn't, abide by certain rules and regulations. He's non-compliant. And you really wouldn't want an officer, this was in, last year, you wouldn't want an officer like that walking around with a gun because he's making decisions like this that ultimately lead to a 12-year-old's murder.
Right, and there's really no way of justifying that. And but at the same time, what makes it even worse is I hate to see people criticizing the young boy, Mr. Rice, Tamir Rice. I mean, saying, oh, well, he was warned that pellet gun was going to get him in trouble. The little things like that just completely make me sick, and it is so sad. And I, from the bottom of my heart, I want to believe that this was an honest mistake, and I want to believe that this is just a freak accident that happens once in every blue moon. But unfortunately, it's not, and there's no way for me to see this other than the fact that it's just bad training. Would you say 2 seconds?
Well, it's
2 seconds of him coming and shooting.
Back to your point, it's not a freak accident. We've covered this on the lip recently. Almost 1,000 police shootings in this country this past year, and only 8 of those officers ever saw a criminal charge against them. So, this isn't less than 1%. So this is happening more often than not. And this case, it highlights a lot of the issue that we can't even get the officer indicted. The prosecutor in this case, the contention against him by Tamir's family is that he set this up so that Lehmann wouldn't be receiving any sort of charge. And they were like, look, this took 400 days, much longer than it should have ever taken. And we're talking about a kid playing with a toy gun outside of a recreational facility.
Yeah, and I mean, this comes, just a few days since we were reporting the fact that nobody in the state of Texas was held responsible for Sandra Bland's hanging in her cell. Nobody at that detention center, not the officer, nobody. They just figured, oh, it was just suicide. That's all we can say about it, when she had absolutely no suicidal tendencies before that. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole Sandra Bland thing now because we're talking about Tamir Rice, but I mean, I'm seeing some sort of pattern here, and it's not very surprising.
Right. Well, we've been looking at tweets of this coming out of this decision not to indict Officer Lehmann. One tweet in particular, one lady expressed saying that this case may not be about a toy masquerading as a gun, but it might in fact be about a murderer masquerading as a police officer. The decision coming down, the indictment, it's official. No charges will be filed against Tim Lehmann in the death of Tamir Rice.